Guys Who Married Bridezillas. What happened after the wedding? Got into a huge fight about broccoli on the honeymoon. All my fault, of course. I knew then it was a mistake. Toughed it out for 2 more years of abuse before I left. So glad I did. I didn't marry the Bridezilla, but I had coordinated her wedding. We had a death in the family, 6-month-old baby, a few days prior to the wedding. I called the bride and told her the situation, and said that my assistant would be stepping in for me so that I could attend the funeral. She told me to send my assistant to the funeral and that I had better be at her wedding. I told her I would be sending her a refund and that no one would be coming to her wedding. The groom ended up leaving her after this whole thing went down. Suffice to say, he really dodged a bullet there. Dang sorry about the baby. I legit cannot imagine just how awful that is. And yeah, that guy absolutely did. First wife was a Bridezilla. During the honeymoon she realized she was married and the wedding day was history. She wanted the big wedding, which she had, not the marriage. The next 2 years were heck until she finally tapped out. I was young and stupid and the thought of divorce never crossed my mind. I don't know why it didn't. I guess I just assumed I'd be miserable the rest of my life. When she told me she was leaving, it felt as if the weight of the world was off of my shoulders. On a happy note, her parents were still paying off the wedding when we divorced. That's what happens when you allow your daughter everything she wanted, including 2 wedding dresses. I am surprised so many people still have the bride's parents pay for the wedding. I have performed a few ceremonies that came about because things fell through for whatever reason, only one of which I had to walk away from. I had received a call from my sil that one of her friends was supposed to get married and the priest had passed away the week before. They didn't want to change the date and move anything, so they had asked if she knew anyone who could help out. I said sure. When is the wedding? It was supposed to be in an hour. Okay. I was on my way home from work where I had finished up an important meeting. I miss meeting in person, and was reasonably well dressed, so I called home to say I was going to be late. When I arrived, the happy couple had looked at me and asked if I had proper priest's vestments. No, I don't. And if I did, I would probably not be carrying them in my car. The bride had asked if I was able to go buy some and come back. I told her that I wouldn't begin to know where to buy something like that. The groom then told me that if I can't even try, then maybe I should leave. I did. My sil told me they cornered a priest at the church and told him he had to marry them or they would sue the church for a breach of contract and that it was the moral thing to do. They divorced 9 months later when her surprise baby was a different ethnicity than he was. Didn't help that he had a side piece as well. No good deed goes unpunished. A bit of a change up, not a Bridezilla, but a groomzilla. A friend of my father was remarrying. It was both his and the bride's second time around, both in their early 40s, and an arranged marriage. Think Indian Orthodox Muslim stuff. The guy was an utter groomzilla. He demanded that every event be at top-notch hotels with obscenely expensive catering and higher string quartets and whatnot for the entertainment, mostly paid out of the bride's family's pocket, I might add. The parties on the nights leading up to the main wedding event were opportunity enough for him to make a rather public butt of himself, talking at the top of his voice and showboating the entire time. But the kicker came the next day, when the bride was missing from her own wedding's reception. Obviously it was very odd and conspicuous, and the few relatives from her side made some non-committal excuses about her not feeling well, etc. Turns out, this sucker had divorced the poor woman right after he'd had his wedding night fun. He said that he didn't like her enough, and that's an almost literal quote. So he gave her the triple divorce thing, and that was it. The marriage was officially over before the festivities even ended. That poor woman. I hope your father kicked his friend to the curb after he pulled that stunt. My buddy married a Bridezilla. She was a Bridezilla long before the wedding, and they had dated for about 7 years. I have no idea how they are doing. I just kind of stopped talking to him a few years after she claimed I ruined his birthday by remaining sober. I had driven 5 hours to be at his birthday. I really don't understand why people get offended if you don't want to get as drunk as they would like. Like, the frick do you care if I'm drunk or not? My cousin was married to one. He comes from a very not wealthy area, and has become successful himself after moving out of his hometown. His wife was extremely wealthy, even could say excessively. They married after a year of knowing each other, and boy was it a surprise to hear about the wedding plans. They spent plus $250k on the wedding, including catering by 5-7 different restaurants. Their food was from different cultures and cooked in front of you. Think almost hibachi buffet style. They even had servers in tailed suits and white gloves serving Taco Bell after midnight once everyone was drunk. Once they got married, she was spending more money than he could make. She was getting mad because he wasn't making enough, while she wasn't working and they hadn't had kids. They got divorced, and she gave him the ultimatum of getting his ring back or keeping the dog. He kept the dog. Her sister, a lawyer, helped her file a restraining order on him and they haven't spoken since. Frick her, but man did he dodge a bullet. I think he got nicked by the bullet. The couple I knew, they spent tens of thousands on their wedding and then a couple of years later she cheated on him with a much younger man. I knew a couple who spent £25,000 on a wedding despite having 3 kids and still living with the bride's parents. The bride had a very specific vision in mind and didn't care how much it cost. They divorced a year later when she cheated on him. Married for 7 years before I bailed. Best decision of my life. Got married again 5 years later to a girl that just wanted a justice of the peace wedding. Second best decision of my life. Courthouse weddings are the best. Ours was done in 30 minutes and then we had Cajun food and sex. It was nice not being so tired from wedding prep and doings that you just felt like spending the honeymoon sleeping. Divorce after 2 years. She moved her stuff out while I was at work. I cried and then when I got remarried to someone new, I realized what real love was. Also, my ex crapped herself on 5 separate occasions when she was blackout drunk because she was an alcoholic. So I don't miss that either. My buddy married a Bridezilla. They are still together 10 years later. She posts on Instagram about their supposedly perfect marriage, but have been separated twice. I'm not sure how many of her friends know. He's an alcoholic now. I've often noticed how the real state of the relationship is inversely proportional to the projected state of the relationship on social media. I think this law needs a name. My brother's fiance went off on my mom in front of me and my sister when he was 45 minutes late to the rehearsal due to his best man's car tire blowing out. Where is your butthole of a son? Dude should have never showed up for the wedding. Not only a Bridezilla, but a total utter sociopath. Her life was completely fabricated and her parents, who didn't show up for the wedding, called my mom to tell her the truth about it the day after. She had a rap sheet a mile long and a prison record. But my brother, who just wanted to believe that people can change, stuck it out for 7 years. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. I tell clients all the time, people can change. They just generally don't. My mom was a mother of the bridezilla. She's an alright lady generally, with her annoying habits here and there, but damn. Woman cried because we refused to have a receiving line. We got married in our backyard. The reception was on the other side of the yard. Why the crap would we have a receiving line? She was beside herself for the better part of an entire year worrying what we would do if it rained. We had a giant tent, and ordered like 20 umbrellas. She also had a cow that the hem on her dress had gotten pulled loose by the ridiculous rhinestone stilettos she chose to wear to a wedding in a yard on grass. I told my mom to get her some duct tape and my mother, again, cried her eyes out. To this day she complains about the fabric runner we used for the aisle because her heels dug into it, saying how silly of a choice that was. Everyone in the wedding party was aware of it and wore wedges or flats, but she snorted that that wasn't elegant. She loathed that I wore ballet flats. She was also appalled that for our rehearsal dinner, which was at our home, since that's where our wedding was, consisted of takeout from our favorite local pizza and sandwich place and the rehearsal itself was all of 10 minutes. She decried it for being borderline trashy. Thankfully following the ceremony my brother gave her a joint and all was well and happy for the party thereafter. Brother of the year. LOL. Honestly, it's your party day, not hers. You do you. According to my mill, I'm the Bridezilla. We had a max limit of 36 people including ourselves and my son. My mill gave me a guest list which included, you guessed it, 36 names. She assured me that not everyone would come, but that there would be very, $, appreciative of the invite. I felt gross by that and left the decision up to my husband since it was his family. Needless to say, they all got invites. I had asked for RSVPs to be given a few months before the wedding. Since the mill had used up all of the guest list, I had greatly reduced my side of the guest list to 4 people, with some on hold until I knew the exact numbers. I finally lost it 2 weeks before the wedding when I still didn't have RSVPs. She said she would work on it and get back to me. A week before the wedding, she said one family also needs to bring 9 other people because they were going on a family trip and our town was on the way, so they would all be here anyway. I flat out said no and called her out on the BS. I cut off the guest list, said that I was inviting the rest of my guest list and that whoever hadn't RSVP'd didn't get a chair or plate. Right up to the day of the wedding they were making changes. We got married at a Chinese buffet so that it would be the simplest planning and everyone would have something that they like to eat. My dress was $40 off Amazon. My flowers were $20 from Costco. We had a Dairy Queen ice cream cake for the wedding cake. Yet she still makes it out that I was the Bridezilla. My sister was labeled a Bridezilla by the staff at her venue. I heard them. However, the chair coverings were red, supposed to be brown. There was no mirror in the bridal suite for her to get ready at. The photographer was late. The makeup artist was very late. Hence the issue with the mirror. The buffet was totally wrong. Not a single dish she chose, and they charged $25 a person for what was to be a 4-tier chocolate fountain, but ended up being a small plastic contraption that she saw them unboxing from Walgreens the day of. It's a convenience store. On top of it all, the wait staff was 1 stroke to the number the contract stated and the DJ refused to honor the playlist selected. So, yeah, she lost it at the venue. I'm a pretty chill person, but I'd probably be having a meltdown with all of those issues too. I knew I would have been a Bridezilla. I get extremely stressed about things and refuse to ask for help. My husband and I got married at the courthouse. Best decision ever. Yes, not sure I'd be a Bridezilla, but stressed, anxious, crying for sure. It would have been miserable for everyone who loved me. So we went to a town hall to do it. Kept the whole even a secret until a few days before. Only close family. It was amazing and I wouldn't change it for the world. Married a groomzilla. We are talking costume changes between wedding and reception. Yelling at the wedding planner. Drag out all night fights about whether we can add fruit kebabs so people would maybe get enough to eat. All that. There was zero compromise. He made a lot of promises for things I had been wanting after the wedding and they never materialized, like a beach vacation and such. Turns out, no compromise at the wedding meant no compromise anywhere else, so I left him after 4 years of marriage. Best decision ever. Congratulations for getting out of there. My sister was a Bridezilla. She asked me to be her bridesmaid. The dresses were hundreds of dollars and my mom ended up paying for it because she knew I couldn't afford it. $70 in alterations later, the stupid dress finally fit. I lived in Edmonton at the time and my sister was in Abbotsford, BC, by Vancouver. She demanded I fly down for her bachelorette party. Fine. $300 for a flight there and my BF drove out for the wedding and picked me up. $200 gas there, $200 back. The party was a week before the wedding, so when I flew down I just stayed until the wedding. Stayed with my mom until my sister kicked me out on the night before her wedding. Wanted a special night with her 2 maids of honor. I was the only just bridesmaid and therefore couldn't be there. During the bachelorette party I was told I needed to bring booze for myself and the bride. Fine. Went to the liquor store and she ran up $100 on my card with what she wanted. Whatever, it's her wedding. Proceeds to drink none of it. Went to bed at the hotel early because she was pissy for some reason. Then gave my alcohol, all $100 of it, to her husband for his bachelor party the next night. Okay, fine. Then she gets pissy my gift for them wasn't off her registry. I looked at the registry and there was nothing under $200. B even put a $900 vacuum on there. Then has the balls to get angry that I was a bridesmaid and didn't spend enough on her. All said and done, her stupid wedding cost me over $1,000 and like I said, my mom paid the $300 for my dress. She then didn't speak to me for years after and only to tell me that she didn't want me as a bridesmaid and I ruined her wedding. That she only asked me out of courtesy and that the spot was actually meant for her wedding planner, our cousin. B. Dunno if she's happily married or not. We don't keep in touch. Her wedding ruined our relationship. Whoa, that's f***ing horrible. I'm so sorry you had to jump through her selfish, insufferable hoops and that she tarnished your relationship. My sister was a Bridezilla. She announced a 2-year engagement and asked me to be more. Then I got the opportunity to move across the country to pursue my career. It was 18 months before her wedding and her reaction to the news was, "You're going to leave me here to plan my wedding all by myself," like I had signed away my right to have a life for the honor of being in her wedding. She made us all spend hundreds of dollars on specialized dresses. The bachelorette party had a dress code and a steep price tag. For 10 years before her engagement I had consistently had blue, green, purple hair, but knowing she is conservative I'll let the color grow out. I had natural color but a short bob with undercut that she went on about. In the lead up we talked every few days to discuss her wedding. It was the closest we'd ever been, and then as soon as she was married I got radio silence. And she even forgot my birthday. Needless to say we don't speak anymore, so I have no idea how her marriage is going. Can't blame her for missing your birthday if you didn't give her a 2-year heads up. Not a Bridezilla, but a Milezilla. Wife wanted a regular sized wedding. Nothing fancy. At a historic venue she loved. We had planned for about 100 guests at most, and we would do a lot of the work. Mil started to pressure about having to invite tons of people. In-laws are loaded and social butterflies. Change the venue. Change the photographer, etc. I didn't give a crap since it was all to make my wife happy, and did my best to adjust. Finally one day about 2 months before the wedding my wife had a breakdown crying because of all the changes and bulls from Mil. Told wife I would handle Mil from now on. Called Mil and read her the riot act and told her to cool her crap or we would just get a courtroom wedding and forget about the religious wedding. Huge deal to the family. She fought me for weeks. Phil fought me. Bills fought me. Told them all to pound sand. We had our original wedding. I was folding invitations and favors the night before until 3 AM, but by frick we got it done. Of course, Mil still changed the DJ and photographers without me noticing, so we had completely wrong music, and we have yet to see the pictures. 16 years later, and we have minimal contact with the family. Kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. My wife and I eloped a few months before our wedding and kept it mostly a secret. Then on the day of, we could just focus on having an awesome party for us and our friends. Our pastor cancelled the day of after standing us up for the rehearsal. My wife checked into the hotel the morning of and the lady asked, "Lady at counter, is there anything else I can help you with?" Wife jokingly, "Yes, a pastor, lack. Our omelette chef is ordained, lack. Hey Tony, you busy tonight? Tony, no. Wife, okay. Spectacular. Our friend, he and my husband met when kids, so think about almost 20 years of friendship. Married a Bridezilla. She is evangelical and religion is pretty much her life and he was agnostic. Nice metalhead geek guy. They asked us to be one of the best man woman. Me and my husband, we are both tattooed. And when we arrived at the wedding we were his only friends. Everyone in that big wedding was from her. Now also his church. Well, the preacher kept saying to him he had his old life and now his new life. His old friends and now the new friends. Yada yada. But all the time criticizing his old ways, the authentic way, and everyone kept looking at me and my hubby like we were beasts. Worst day ever. She is that kind of person that wants to be an influencer. Every dang thing is in her Instagram. Their relationship seems perfect there, but he always seems so unhappy, so apathetic, especially when we used to see him, before the pandemic, always talking about how they are so different, how things are like she wants. Her stories are basically she saying he does nothing right. It's even humiliating. She made him stop talking to us. This last week, he got out of every group we had. He stopped answering my husband, who is very sad he lost his friends. I believe she is the one replying the few weird messages he gets. That's the Bridezilla. It seems to be really usual for the Bridezilla to act up on social media, but in the real life is all messy. Someone isolating their partner like that from their friends and family is abuse. Hopefully he gets out of there. I married a Bridezilla. He is a lovely, sweet, thoughtful man, but boy did he lose it surrounding the wedding. I could have been married with about 3 special people there. He needed 200 plus. As far as I was concerned, we could eat off paper plates and napkins and have a big bonfire to burn them afterwards. He need personalized moist towelettes. You get the point. He is a lovely person and I love him dearly, but I will never marry him again. My ex-husband was the same way. We're getting married at this resort, on this mountain, with this cake, and inviting these people. Set it up. Current husband, who I'd marry once a year if I could afford it, was concerned about making the wedding as much fun as possible for us and our guests. He planned some things, I planned some things, everything was chill, and we did indeed have fun. I was a Bridezilla. It was a small wedding, like 50 people, was going to be at a park. Very casual. Everything was handmade or from the dollar store. I only ended up with a dress from a David's because my first little boho dress I ordered was more of a shirt. So my mom and friends took me dress shopping. My mom told the lady not to tell me any prices, but I told her under $200. I tried on one dress and cried because I loved it so much. My mom bought it, and I later looked it up and saw it was $3,000. So that changed everything. No more wedding at a park. So we booked a small venue. We served pizza and pies still, and the groomsmen were still wearing polos and shorts. Bridesmaids were still in some Rue 21 dresses I bought for them. I only became a Bridezilla the day of. None of my family I had invited showed up, so my husband's side was full and mine was empty. Even our friends sat on his side. Our MC read the speech I wrote before we were even at the altar. Our camera died so we didn't get the recording. I tripped going up to the altar. I had herniated a disc a week before the wedding, so I was miserable and in so much pain. I cried so hard afterwards. It felt like it was terrible, like everything was ruined. I did my best to hold it together, but I was so relieved when it was over. If I could do it all over, I would change everything, especially how I acted. None of that excuses my snippy behavior or my crying. Just because I was stressed and upset and hurting doesn't give me the right to make others feel bad. Don't beat yourself up. That sucks and back pain is no joke. My brother married a Bridezilla. She yelled at my mother the day of for asking her where she wanted certain decorations at the reception site. There wasn't a written plan, so my mom had nothing to go off of. Never thanked my parents for financially contributing to the wedding. Accused a bridesmaid of trying to upstage her by getting a spray tan before the wedding. My brother wanted me to be in the wedding party, but she told him to his face that I was too pretty to be in the wedding party and all of her bridesmaids had to be less attractive than her. Stole my silk jacket in the middle of the reception, literally took it off her back because one of the bridesmaids was cold. It was a night reception in the spring. The girl should have brought a jacket. The list goes on. Well, they got divorced about a year later because apparently her demanding attitude carried over into the marriage. Needless to say, the rest of my family had a little party when we heard about the divorce. Not a guy, but I'm pretty sure my venue thinks I'm a Bridezilla. The situation was that I asked for a second tasting. I was calm and asked via email. Even had my fiance read it before sending. The reason? I told them I'm a vegetarian several times prior, and when I got to the first tasting I couldn't eat anything and they even put bacon on the salad they served me. We also asked for absolutely no bacon pig because we had quite a few people coming who didn't eat it for religious reasons. My fiance had like 7 full-sized dishes around him and I was just sitting there with a glass of wine for over an hour. They were very rude and treated me like a Bridezilla when I came for the second tasting. Eesh. Speaking with no experience of weddings, I feel like I would have just wanted to drop that venue caterer on the spot. Feels generous that you gave them a second chance. My GF of 10 years is very down to earth and level headed. We finally decided to get married later this year for a few reasons, and she's feeling a lot of phantom pressure to do things a certain way. It's not like there is an overbearing mom or catty friends applying pressure or expectations. It's just the whole idea is overwhelming and filled to the brim with opportunities to make a decision you might end up regretting later. Or further, I've taken a more active role in narrowing down options instead of asking her to pick a perfect solution out of 5 million possible options. It's helped somewhat, but there is still a lot of pressure on her, seemingly out of nowhere, to make a series of decisions that all depend upon the first few big decisions that are weighing heavily on her. All this to say, I can see how this kind of stuff could turn a normal woman into a lunatic. These types of events tend to bring latent family and friend drama to the forefront, and emotions are high before crap even really gets started. My guess is that a lot of the Bridezillas were actually lovely people who calmed down and returned to being lovely people after the stress of the wedding stuff is removed. I think there are multiple kinds of Bridezilla which all get lumped into the one term. Like I did, you experienced a stressed out bride who met her breaking point, not an entitled control freak. I'm glad to have the former and wouldn't have proposed to the latter. Best wishes on a long and happy marriage. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.